Hey peeps, me again. Today I'm going to be talking about crystals. I'm going to be talking about the Fae in terms of reality, and I'm going to be talking about the difference between my books and the magic I do for real. So stick around, hit the subscription button if you haven't subscribed, hit the bell so you get notified when I have new videos out, and give this video a thumbs up if you would, and we'll get right to it. So I've been meaning to make this video for quite a while, several years in fact. Actually, I wanted to actually address this, but I didn't feel ready to at that point. So, and I'm being inundated with kitties. Yay! I have a bunch of crystals laid out here, and she's trying to walk around them. Anyway, so I thought it was time to address this. Apple's tail, just found one of my cotton makeup rounds. Hold on. So yes, I thought it was time to address this, especially since now I feel like I have the freedom to. As most of you know, I am a shamanic witch. I have been in the craft for over 40 years, since I was, well, 41 years, since I was 19. And I wrote nonfiction for a while. Some of that is out, and again in indie. I have the rights to it all back. I have been meaning to put out the rest. I just haven't gotten to it yet, but I'm feeling the push to start talking about my magic again more, and about ritual, and about the craft and the way I do things now. And so, yeah, I'm starting to delve into that again more. I have a part on my site called The Cauldron of Changes, which has some information on it, very bare bones information at this point. And another friend blogs on there too with me. I have plans to have a couple other people come in as well. Things are just taking, the pandemic interfered with everything. I want to address a few things. I want to make it very clear as to where my fiction ends and where my magic, my personal magic, takes up. I actually had someone once ask at a book signing if I was human. And she was serious. And I sat there going, if I joke, she'll take me seriously. If I'm like, what the hell do you mean? She'll be offended. But I understood what she meant on an energetic level, in terms of, I do believe that our spirits contain more than just human essence. So I think that's what she was talking about, but I didn't have time to get into it. I didn't want to talk about it. So I just said, well, last time I checked my DNA, yeah. It's a weird situation to be writing the kind of genre that I do, writing about magic and fantasy and the Fae and everything, and believing in some of that on a different level, in a different direction. They can't help but overlap to some degree, but I really want to make very clear that the magic in my fiction, some of the chants, I suppose, could be used, actually, but the magic itself is exacerbated. Do I believe that some of those things are possible? Maybe, but most of what I write in my books is fiction. However, I utilize my magic a lot in the writing, in terms of my energy that I put into the books. So yes, you will feel magical energy in my fiction. It is there. And I do believe sometimes the gods tap me on the shoulder and say, hey, put me in there. It's like, I do sometimes think that happens, but it's fiction. The characters, Ember and Hearn and the sisters and everything else, they don't exist in our reality. You know, they aren't people that I talk to and just write down their stories. They are characters that my subconscious has created. So in a sense, they're real because they come from within me. But yeah, they're not hanging out on the street corner. And I say that because sometimes people have actually asked me if my characters are real. And it's like, not really. No. Now, some of the energy could be real. I put some of the energy in that I take away from conversations and that I take away from things I've seen or read or felt or dreamt. But the fiction is fiction, but there is a lot of magical energy behind it. So things do feel real. And sometimes I do touch on elements that I believe in. Do I believe in the Fae? Yes. I don't necessarily think they're like the ones that I tend to write. Sometimes I get closer than others, like the Wilding Fae and the Indigo Court, the Anti-Fae, you know, and the Wild Hunt. Those are more like I perceive the Fae to be. Do I believe in unicorns? Yes, I saw one. And you can read about that in Embracing the Moon. Do I believe that a unicorn's going to come up and talk to me, like in my front yard? Energetically, maybe, but is it going to be one of the Dawn's unicorns from the Otherworld series? No. Well, you get the idea. You know, there are elements of the magical world in my writing that come from a base of reality, what you would call reality, but I've exacerbated and changed it, you know, created this fantasy world for that. So I hope that clarifies some things. Yeah, I do, you know, I do believe in the Fae. I do believe in dragons. I believe in a lot of creatures from mythology being real, perhaps in a slightly different dimension, perhaps in an alternative universe to ours. Quantum physics is now showing, yeah, there are more than 3 dimensions. You know, there are more parallel universes than you would think. They're putting a number on it at this point, but I think that's going to change. So science and magic aren't that far off. Anyway, onward. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the crystals I've been using lately. And I'm going to talk a bit about some of my encounters with the Fae over the next few videos, next few months, and other magical things as well. And I'm going to interweave them in with my writing videos. This crystal really wants me to pick it up and show it to you. Now it is Lemurian Quartz, which is a master crystal. Lemurian Quartz, it's considered like the godfather of quartz, you might say. It's very powerful. It holds the keys to the Akashic records. Some people think. For me, it's a clearer energy, more clear than other quartz, and it lets you reach further out on the what I call the celestial realm, which is the realm of starlight, the realm of stardust energy, the realm of deep space. I do believe we can travel through that realm psychically, an astral level. So this is the one that keeps tipping over and wanting me to show it to you. And I will zoom in while I am showing this piece. I got it recently off eBay, no less. I have the ability to be able to feel energy through the internet. I know it sounds odd, but I can. I can feel the energy of what people are like. I can feel the energy of whether to stay away from someone or not, and I can feel the energy of the crystals that I look at through the net. For one thing, my astrological chart has a lot of Aquarian energy in it in terms of the moon and Mercury, and I'm very connected with the electrical energy that's ruled by Uranus. And that is also the energy that feels connected with Ukko, one of the gods I follow, and its thought and its electricity and its communications and lightning. So yeah, I seem to be able to reach through the net and feel energy, which is why I ward my computer. I put rooms on my computer. I occasionally spray it with a sage cleansing spray because, and I don't spray it so that it goes inside the computer, people, and I don't spray it while it's on, but I spray around it to clear the energy and to energetically cut any cords that are coming through the computer toward me. But this crystal I've been working with a lot lately. I like to hold it. It likes to be held for me, sort of like that. And it clears my mind. Now that's one thing about Lemurian Quartz. It will really clear your head. And I should work with it every morning. In fact, I'm just getting the sense that, yeah, that's one thing I needed to realize is I need to work with some of these stones in the morning with my morning routine that I talked about last week. Now here's another type of quartz I absolutely love, and it's called fire and ice quartz, or rainbow quartz sometimes. You'll notice all the fractures inside. That is caused by the treatment of the quartz, which it's heated to an extremely high temperature, and then I think it's plunged into water, and that will fracture inside. Well, it changes the energy of the quartz. It, to me, in my opinion, it offers a chance to find energetic portals, astrally go through a wormhole, so to speak. It's also very seductive to me. And I don't mean seductive as in sexy. I mean seductive as in it calls to me. I have a lot of this kind of quartz because it just speaks to me. You will find that with some crystals, that a lot of crystals will speak to you and call to you, and they may not speak to somebody else. For instance, I use very few crystals that are not at some point transparent. I do have a lot of malachite, and I have tiger's eye, and I have carnelian, and I use them in the house to set up grids and stuff, but I don't wear them very often. I find it difficult to wear an opaque form of crystal. There, back to not blurry. Yes, I love fire and ice quartz. I use this a lot with celestite, which is another quartz. No, it's not quartz. It's another crystal that I absolutely love. It's very pale blue, looks almost grayish. I've got a number of pieces of this too. And it's, I think it's called angelite as well, but I'm not sure. It's a very soft crystal, so if you drop it, it'll break easy. I would love to have this made into a necklace so I could wear it, like wire wrapped or something. It's a calming piece. It's a calming crystal. It is soothing. When I hold it and I'm having a reaction, it helps calm down some parts of the reaction a little bit. And together with this, it feels like they energize each other. So yeah, fire and ice quartz and celestite work well together, and they work well together with moonstone as well. Now here is a mixed crystal. It's amethyst and smoky quartz, which they're both forms of quartz. Amethyst and smoky are both forms of quartz. Amethyst is a healing crystal, and it's a cleansing crystal, and it's supposed to be good for sobriety, but I've never had to use it for that. And smoky quartz is very protective, and it helps clear your sight. So together, smoky and amethyst, if you find them in the same crystal, are good for taking a look at a situation that you really need to know inside out, and good for protecting you in case you don't want people to know you're looking into the situation. And here are two others I've been working with a lot lately. Now, these are the same. They're from the same batch, but different parts of the crystal. And I have actually several spheres of this too, which I can show you. This is clear quartz with inclusions of black tourmaline. Black tourmaline is protective and it keeps people from siphoning energy off of you. And clear quartz, of course, is very good for amplifying energy. So it amplifies the energy of the black tourmaline, and it's good for clear vision. So this one obviously has a lot more of it, of the tourmaline in it. And I think, it didn't say it was, but I think it's got a little smoky in it by the look of some of the places where it's more the clear quartz. And this I'm going to show you for fun. I bought this because it just appealed to me visually, and I'm glad I did because I like the energy and it's kind of fun. It reminds me, it reminds me of Pac-Man, oddly enough. You know, it's like a little creature, but it's a geode, you know, that's been cut open and polished on the back side, and it's amethyst. When I was little, I used to dig in the backyard. I would dig hoping to find geodes. I wanted to find geodes so I could break them open and have crystals. Even then, I was in love with crystals. And my mom caught me once. I also dug for dinosaur fossils because I was so sure that they would be in the backyard. My mom got so mad once because she went out back and saw that I was like 10 years old and I had managed to dig a hole 4 feet deep and about 3 feet long. And she was like, "You filled that in right away." I don't know how I did it. I guess the soil was very soft where I was digging. It had been around the garden and it wasn't being used at that point. And so I just got in there and dug and dug and dug. And yeah, I got in trouble for that. So I was talking about the black tourmaline and quartz. And here is one of my spheres of black tourmaline and quartz. Isn't that incredible? I love the energy, and it's almost all black tourmaline there. And I think this may have a bit of smoky in it too. It feels like it to me, but I use this when I need to do new moon energy, new moon rituals. So I told you I was going to talk a little bit about the Fae as well. I, as you know, work with dark fairy energy. I am formally pledged to 5 deities. One, my primary god and goddess, Maliki, is the goddess of the hunt. She is also a goddess over the woodland fairy, basically. They don't technically use that name, but they're woodland spirits in the Finnish tradition. And Tapio is the lord of the forest. So I have been pledged to them since 1992. I've been in the craft since 1980. I also am pledged to Ukko and Rani. She has several names. Actually, Ukko does too. They are the Lord and Lady of the Pantheon, of the Finnish Pantheon. They are the mother and father. She is referred to as the mother of all mothers, and he is Ukko Jumala, he who makes everything possible. And he is a god of storms and air and thought and thunder. And she is a goddess of lightning and of the rowan tree, which is wonderful because we named our little, plot of land in this world Rowanwood Grove after her, because she is like the keeper of the cauldron. She's the mistress of the castle. She's the mother of all mothers. She's very similar in some ways to Caridwen in the Celtic traditions. She is also a goddess of agriculture and of the harvest. And then I am pledged to Brigid, basically Celtic goddess of the forge and of poetry and of healing. And I work with all 5 of them. and they all seem to get along quite well. Because Maliki is my primary goddess, rules over the woodland fae, I work with the fae. The dark fae, which they're not evil, dark and light in the fae world are not evil or good. Neither one of them are evil or good. They're all very chaotic in many ways, which is odd because I love order so much. But the fae are kind of their own numerous races, all within the same grouping. I have actually seen a number of them. They are very odd shaped. Brian Froud, who wrote Good Fairies, Bad Fairies, and he has a tarot deck out, and I think there are several other books he did of fairies. The drawings he did are not that far off from some of the ones I've seen. They come in all shapes and sizes, and they are of all bents. They don't follow human rules. I'll tell you a couple little stories. The most recent came through a dream, but it was one of those dreams that I know I was working on the astral. And I found a space in a house that Sam and I bought. And usually houses represent your internal self, but they also represent your environment. Well, Sam and I had found a hidden space in the house. And these kind of dreams are common for me, but usually they're nightmares. And usually it's I find a hidden space in a house that I bought, and it's filled with ghosts and monsters that therefore chase me around the house. But in this case, it wasn't. I found a hidden space and it led to the realm of fairy. And I was like, oh, hey, cool. And there were a number of fae standing around, and I was there hammering out terms of a contract with a couple of the fairies as to when and where they could come in the house and what they could do inside the house. And what that says to me is that I'm going to be going deeper into my magical work with the fae, and there needed to be some boundaries set in terms of how far they could come in to my life, to my house, to my ritual space, and boundaries as to how I needed to approach them. So we were creating a contract as to what was allowed between the two different worlds, between my world and their world. So I found that very interesting, and I woke up going, that's not a dream. That wasn't a dream. Because I do a lot of work out on the astral plane. And I'm going to tell you a story from years ago. So this was when I lived over in Bellevue, and we rented a place before we bought this one. So it was years ago. I had a very pretty diamond ring that I had bought in celebration of hitting the bestsellers list with Witchling. I loved that ring, and I was wearing it, and I was sitting out in the living room. I think I was reading or something, and all of a sudden I noticed the ring was not on my finger. And I was like, where'd it go? What happened? Oh no. So I looked around, I could not find it anywhere. I knew I'd had it on. I hadn't been out of the house. I looked in every place I could find. I looked on, through the chair in case it had slipped off my finger. I looked on the floor. I looked in the bed. I looked in the kitchen. No ring. And then I just got the feeling that the fairies had swiped it. They do swipe things for me now and then, and they'll bring them back when I yell at them enough, or when I ask them nicely. Sometimes it's a reminder to acknowledge them. So I stood in the middle of the room and I said, okay, I will buy you something, whatever you want within reason, if you give my ring back in the next 10 minutes. I sit down in the same chair. 2 minutes later, I glance down and the ring is on the floor right by my foot. And it had not been there. I had looked all over that area. And I was like, okay, I get it. You guys want something. What do you want? So I did some meditation. I was like, what do you want? And I get this image in my mind of a clock that chimes, like a pendulum clock. Only we had no space for a grandfather clock, and we didn't have the money for a grandfather clock. So I was like, will a smaller clock that does the same thing do? And I heard in my mind, yes, it's for the clock fairy. And I'm like, what's the clock fairy? Tell me about the clock fairy. And so I listened and I heard, basically the clock fairy is a fairy that rides on the pendulum on a clock, and it keeps things in order. As long as the clock is moving, it keeps things in order and it helps keep chaos out of the house. So you can be sure I went online that day and I looked up clocks, and I finally found one that stands about this tall. And it's a very beautiful clock, and it has a pendulum and it chimes the hour. So I ordered a clock, and that clock still stands on the entertainment hutch, and it belongs to the clock fairy. So there's a little story about the Fae, and what can happen, and how they touch our lives. I do see them now and then physically, not often, but now and then I'll catch a glimpse of them. A lot of times I'll catch a glimpse of them in shadow form running through the house. And it's not like the Shadow Man. It's just like this little darting figure, and it'll be so fast, it's a blur. Bridget chases the fairies a lot. They tease her, they tease the cats, but Bridget is the one who really responds. And she will chase them all across the top of the bookcases and stuff. And I can tell, and my friends can tell too, when she's out chasing fairies, because she will be staring intently at an area, and then she'll run toward it, and then she'll stop and she'll look around. And we don't have any bugs going around at that point. You can tell if it's a fly or something. But yeah, she chases the fairies around. So just a few magical thoughts today about fairies and crystals, and how it relates to my writing. As I said, I put energy into my writing. I put magical energy into my writing. I pour a lot of energy into that writing. And it's not there to be siphoned off. You can't really attach to it, but it's there to make the work stronger. And it's there to make the books have that feel, that the magical world kind of has. Since I write about magical worlds, I thought it's best to make them feel like they're magical worlds. So, take from this what you will. I will talk to you later. Take care. Bye-bye. And have a great week. And again, go read my Moonshadow Bay series and read my Wild Hunt series if you would. Those are the two most magical series that I have written, besides Whisper Hollow. And they're the ones that feel the strongest to me. So I'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye-bye.